Hey, hey, Blue Table fans! I've got something in my other hand, so I can't do a shockwave with that, but I'm gonna do it anyway! Out it goes across the world. China, Pacific Ocean, back to California, and it's back in Utah. The entire world has been covered with my shockwave of happiness. Goes around and up and down. All right, folks, it is time. I have a list of seriously 20 things on here. So it's a ramble. Did some packing, by the way. So do you want to see? Do you want to see the packing? Before I do that, well, you know, let's just take a look at it first. Here we go. So yeah, so there's that. That's a lot of packages, by the way. That's whole armies in there, by the way. So I had my son come out and help me pack, but I'm like, why does it take 3 times as long? And I get it. I understand that. But next time I'm gonna sit down and do it with him and see how that goes, because I'm like, I know it doesn't take that long. I know it doesn't take that long. Gately's are doing good, by the way. We're all up here in Salt Lake now, and this is Salt Lake. Salt Lake has been good to me. This is a good place to be, and in fact, there's an influx of investors and people coming in. And in fact, in a way, they're driving the property prices up, but let's not talk about that. And so recently I've been like, hey, how long does it take to do things? And I've started timing everyday activities. For example, I can shave in 90 seconds. And I mean the whole operation, get everything out and actually do it. And that's a lifetime of practice, folks. I used to use an electric shaver when I was younger, but for probably 15, 20 years now, I've used only razor. And it feels better. I like it. It's kind of old school. You know, my dad used to have one of those things where it was the cup with the soap in it and the little whisker brush, you know, that little horsehair brush or whatever it is, badger hair. I don't know what they make them out of. He would you know, get it all over his face. It's pretty awesome. That's really, but he didn't use a straight razor, because that straight razor is super manly. That's you know, a Bowie knife, you know, sharpen your Bowie knife and get going. All right, so 90 seconds only takes 1 minute to 2 minutes to make the bed. And why do I put these things off? These basic tasks that just take so little time. And I calculated if you spend 7.5 minutes or so every day doing something, you will have spent a full working week just doing whatever that thing is by the end of the year. Every year you use a full working week. So I'm like, how much of my life is getting eaten up with these mundane tasks? I'd like to farm this stuff out. Well, and then that's interesting. Well, what could you not farm out? Well, your own workout, like health, and you couldn't farm out shaving. Well, actually you could. You could. I wonder what you could do besides shaving. But that, of course, begs the question, what is the point of all this? Do those everyday things have sort of a value in doing them and make human life interesting? There's an old Zen saying, before I became enlightened, I chopped wood and carried water. After I became enlightened, I chopped wood and carried water. So your guess is as good as mine. Maybe those mundane things do have value. Now comments. You guys have noticed I've turned off the comments on all the videos. And this has to do with the same topic of how long does it take to do all these things. And in my profession, managing blue table painting and doing all the things associated with that, a good question is, well, how long does it take? All these little tiny things sort of eat up the day. And emails. And so, you know, comments to track them, to get rid of the nonsense, to respond to the good things, it all takes time and it takes focus too. So I've just opted out of that for the time being. So no offense, you can comment on this video, and I do plan on reading these and responding to the intelligent ones. Well, or the, I don't know, whichever ones I pick. Don't feel pressured to make an intelligent comment. So yeah, exercise. I never thought of it, but lifting weights kind of became my thing. Just a home routine. It's all very simple. Don't think you're going to see anything impressive here. And do it about twice a week, and it's a really good feeling. I would definitely love to expand my equipment and expand my routine. Total reps usually above 300 among the various different things that I do. So it's a good workout. I'm glistening by the end. And biking. So my goal of recent days is to get a bike. Of course, in Salt Lake, downtown-ish Salt Lake, where I live, you cannot store your bike outside. Don't do it. Don't leave it outside. They're scouring the neighborhoods for stuff that's not tied down. And by the way, if I'm looking over there, I'm actually looking out the window. There's like a park and stuff. So, and swimming. My next place, I would love to have a pool in it. That's the dream. Okay, so BTP State of the Union. We are at, last I checked, we were at 62 projects. I've got right around 10 or 12 people working part-time, mostly just part-timers. This is right around the productivity that we had at the place we went after the Badger Hole. So I've perfected the Badger Hole business model, and that's working out really great, both for the company and me personally. I have peace. And let's see. So out of those 62, about just less than a third of them are in pre-op. Like I'm waiting for stuff to come in. There's something going on where they're waiting to be assigned. And that's a good ratio. So that means the majority of them are being worked on in some way. The pre-op number may have actually gone up because they get kicked back into pre-op after everything's assembled. And right now I've got assembly is ripping it to shreds, man. Like I have a hard time shoveling enough coal in that furnace. So let's see. Oh, a couple things. I do need somebody I know and trust to update the website. Just a basic thing. And so contact me. There's an email in the liner notes. And get in touch with me if you're interested in doing with that. I can... I don't know what you would want to do that. So there you go. Also, I want to get some terrain done and get my hands dirty on some terrain. So I'm looking for a sponsor for that who'd be willing to go in for, so out of the terrain that I make, that they would get some of that. And it's going to be an old-fashioned terrain fest. I'm going to do it in 2 or 3 days of actually making the terrain. There will be a lead up to it, obviously, and then, of course, a very short cleanup. So contact me if you're interested in that. I'm going to be doing fantasy terrain, but what I make will be suitable for science fiction or whatever it is. As you know, one of my big dreams is ultimate fantasy role-playing, and really a beginning of that is doing the terrain for it, and that's what I hope to be doing with this terrain, this round of making terrain. Also looking for bat rep opponents. So if you're local, want to get in a bat rep, I've got the armies and everything. I've got 40K, not Warhammer, I almost said Warhammer Fantasy. Oh my! Age of Sigmar, and Drop Zone Commander. I'd love to do some Drop Zone Commander. Or I don't know if you have some other idea. War Machine is now beyond, like they produce so many models, so many rules. I can't even wrap my head around it. I don't even know what War Machine is going to do next. But their models are really good. They've come up with some really like amazing things. Just absolutely amazing. So the next stop for me and Blue Table Painting is not a traditional workshop type studio, but it's a permanent Valhalla. And all of you have seen Valhalla, people understand what that is now, which is great because in this little subculture, that concept is now penetrated in people's minds. People understand what that means. And you're welcome, world. So a permanent Valhalla, I want to be Elrond and have this place, have people out, ultimate fantasy role-playing, the wargaming stuff, maybe some next level type workshops, mentoring things, and just be able to have people out whenever I want and not have to move up there, rent a place, figure it all out, reserve the dates, all that nonsense. Just a lot more inside of the community, a lot less formal. And for the last 2, maybe even 3 years, I've been living a pretty private life. Like, those videos have not been coming out. I'm not really showing what's going on. And it's really an intuitive thing. It really feels like running Blue Table Painting and building that up. Guys, that was intense. I almost wouldn't wish it on another human. I mean, it was like, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. It was great, but it was also very demanding, and there were a lot of humans involved. So, and I still get great emails, and people, you know, remember things, and that was vague. In fact, I have a guy coming to interview me for some college paper he's writing on business this morning. He's going to be here in like an hour, I think. And so it's still there, and it's interesting. It's an ongoing saga. So permanent Valhalla's coming. I'm just putting it out there that in my ideal world, I have a patron. Like, wouldn't it be great if there were just one client, or a traditional patron who would just have the resources to take care of everything, and then let the imagination run wild. And because I'd love to have a crew just working on something, these big projects. And where does this idea come from? So about 1.5 years ago, I had a mentor of mine, and if you don't have a mentor, you might consider getting one. And so I'm talking to her, and she says, "Hey Sean, what are you doing to keep your positivity up every day?" And I say, "Well, nothing every day. It's all sporadic." She's like, "Well, that's your problem." And she gave me an assignment, and it was to start a fantasy journal. Little did I know how much this would really affect me. And so I'm going to explain what that is. And I may have talked about this in another video, but I'm talking about it now. And so I'll explain what it is, and then sort of where it comes from. A big question is, how would you like your life with no limitation? And I think very few people actually think about this. They might make career goals or have some sort of vague thing. Like when I was going to college, I imagined that I'd be in Oregon still, and that I would be a high school or university teacher, and I would ride my bike to work, and it'd all be very peaceful, and, you know, little garden out back. And wow, my life sure took a turn for the adventurous since then. And so anyway, to really write it down. So that's been a journey of mine since 2012. How would I have my life if I could have it any way I wanted? And it's not something that sort of pops up like you can instantaneously do. You actually have to have some experiences to give context to it. And so I think the idea of writing a fantasy journal is one that it's going to be years to do it. And so I started writing mine about 1.5 years ago. I'm currently up to 80,000 words. So I'm up to like novel sized here. And because that'd be about 160 pages at 500 words per page. And that's That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of writing. So when you write your fantasy journal, you write it in first person, and you write it in first person as if it's happening to you. And you can write it in a story form, like as if maybe you're old and you're recounting everything, or you could write it in a journal form where you're actually making entries like every month or 2 months inside of the fantasy world time frame. Now you could write something where it's like, oh, I'm a super spy, but it's not quite like that. You could write that. If it makes you happy, if it makes you feel positive inside, then definitely do it that way. But in what I'm describing is that you would write it more as something that that could possibly happen in the real world, and you you have, like, the experiences could be fantastical, could be like really out there, but there's really no limit to it. Number one rule if you're going to do this, though, do not let anyone ever read it, past, present, or future. So when you're writing this, you can't be like, well, eventually so-and-so is going to see this. No, no, this is for you and you only, and here's why. Because when you're writing it, you can't have those editors in your head. And they're already in there. When you're writing this, it's a weird thing. When you're writing it, you'll kind of back off of certain ideas and be like, oh yeah, that's not going to be approved. It's like, well, who cares? Just write it. It's like this. It's like journal. So keep it secret. Don't talk to people about it. Don't. I mean, I'm talking about the act, but not the contents. So anyway, fantasy journal. It's a great exercise, and when I write in it, when I write a page or two, it's like the day goes better after that, because it keeps me focused on, keeps me, yeah, focused like a lens onto what it is that I would really like to have in life, and what it is that I'd like to be doing. And I got to tell you, it's a journey of self-discovery. It is. I'm like, whoa. I'm writing. I'm like, wow. I'm pretty shallow, actually. There's not a lot here. There's certain elements that kind of repeat themselves over and over again, and I'm like, oh, okay, there you go. But it was also very beautiful, and it gave me ideas. It gave me ideas for things that I would like to go and do and accomplish, and it's really exciting. So there's that. I'm working on another project right now that I'm really excited about. Can't tell you anything about it, but it's coming. And so, did I do shout outs? Oh no, I did them on my other video. All right, objects. So when you're writing this journal, or even thinking about it, first off, use illustrations. I just go on the internet and I'm like, you know, well, in the fantasy world, maybe I go on a vacation. So I find a location, I book tickets. I don't book them, I just go on the site and like, well, how much are they? What does it look like to go and do this thing? What airport do you arrive at? I go on YouTube, I'm like, you know, arriving at such and such airport, and then it shows you like videos of it. And so I put 2 or 3 illustrations per page, just pictures that I pick up here and there. And it's got to be something inspiring, something where you look at it and you go, oh yeah, that's awesome, I love that. And it'll change your thinking. It's really a great exercise. And the other thing is, I realized that all of these things they came in like categories. It was experiences, relationships, or objects. So an object would be something you own, like a house or a car or, you know, clothing, whatever it is, the material things that you have around you. And then, of course, experiences could be, you know, something like a vacation is typically an experience. It could be an activity, maybe skydiving. That's a little cliched. In fact, and then the third thing is a relationship with another person. And it's funny how these 3 things are really interwoven. So an object could be living in a house is an experience that you'd have over months or years. And obviously a relationship is also an experience. In a way, everything is an experience. And I just define experience in this context as something that's happening to you, or an experience that you're having that's not with a person or an object. Is that possible? So anyway, yeah, there you go. So that's a concept I sort of kept track of while I was doing this. All right, we're coming up on the end of the ramble, guys. So be sure to put in the liner notes like what you would like me to talk about, show you. What do you want to see? I get a lot of requests for battle reports. I'd love to do a battle report. I got the terrain. I just need a person to do it. And shout outs. Wargamer Online. Check them out. They're the up-and-comers. They're just great humans. They're the only people I've really felt like reaching out to in the last couple of years. And they've been fantastic to me, and they put out so much good content. Like, these guys are really, if they stick with it, they're coming up. It's amazing. And Hero Forge, we've been doing a lot of work on Hero Forge models. It's a company where you go onto their website and you can custom make like a role-playing game figure, and put a tail on them or a sword in this hand or whatever it is. They have a zillion options. They print it out. There's different options for printing out, and they send you your figures. And you can have them sent direct to me to have them painted and get your little role-playing group some figures. What a great activity for a role-playing session is to not only make your characters but order figures for them and then have them painted up in anticipation of an upcoming campaign. So as a side note, in my fantasy world, 6 years have gone by. I've actually written up 6 years worth of stuff, and it's really neat. I think it helps on a very basic level. It's sort of a goal-setting device. I believe, of course, at the highest level that thoughts actually cause things to happen, and very few people subscribe to that, where thought alone, no actions, can cause a different sort of flow of events in my life. And it's interesting stuff. All right, folks, that's all I got for this ramble. Yeah, I know, wow, where am I? I'm at 22 minutes. It's not bad, it's not bad. So let me know what you'd like me to talk about or what questions you may have. And if not, I'm just going to keep them coming. My goal is a minimum 7 videos a week, up to maybe 14 to 2 a day. But you know me, I just kind of like, well, whatever happens. All right.